What's up? How you doing there,
man?
sir?
I'm
How
doing
you
well.
doing?
Well.
Good. We back another day.
Yes,
We
sir.
got some good topics today, and we thought we were gonna have some more people on with us today, but we're gonna keep on trucking, man. Gonna keep on trucking.
Stay
So
woke,
go ahead.
man. Yeah, I
Yep,
was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
man, stay woke, man, and we need everybody to subscribe, man. Take a listen to our our podcast, man. Visit us on X. Visit us on Spoutable, all at Gents MS. We put shorts of our shows up, and you can always go to YouTube and listen to the whole show. We just need you to subscribe and put some comments in there so we know what to get better
Yep. That's it. If you give us a short uh, uh, introduction on what we're gonna talk about today, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, we got two good topics. One is Supreme Court. Just kind of what's going on up there. What's the view towards the Supreme Court? How they're handling the most recent historical cases. In the country, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a controversial group, but a group that has been around in the Black community for a significant amount of time. That's the Nation of Islam. We're going to talk a little bit about what might be the differences in our community, why some African Americans are in the country aren't as supportive of the Nation of Islam as I personally think we should be. But good conversation. We're looking forward to getting into it.
Okay, well, good. Like you said, the first topic we're going to talk about today is the Supreme Court. We're going to ask a couple questions. We're going to talk about a couple things, but let me give you a little background on the Supreme Court. I know everybody think they know about the Supreme Court there, but there's some nuances on the Supreme Court that we should talk about and try to make sure everybody understands or have some idea of how it works and stuff. Supreme Court has always been political simply because whoever's at the president when the opening come up gets to choose who goes on the Supreme Court. So by virtue of how a Supreme Court justice is chosen, it's political by nature. Now they go all out trying to say, and even in their hearings, and I've been vocal about this by saying that they won't overturn something that's been on the books for forever, but they always do. And I always say, well, if you do that under oath, shouldn't you be held in contempt of the Senate because you said one thing and you did a different thing? I know people that get in big trouble for that. The things that we're going to talk about in particular about Supreme Court is the partisanship and the historical context of the Supreme Court. And next, we're going to get in why is the Supreme Court like it is today, where we have its lowest popularity in the history. Is it overconfidence and bias? Then we'll talk a little bit about the legitimacy crisis of the Supreme Court. It's been said that they have a legitimate crisis, and we're going to talk about that. So the first thing we're going to get into, Suleiman, if you want to talk about it, just what I said, by virtue of how the Supreme Court is chosen, it's going to be political. So what do you think the historical implications of the partisanship now and everything?
Yeah, no, what I would say is it's money. It hasn't always been about money. There was a time in this country where the leadership in this country understood that we were a new country. We understood that, integrity, discipline, responsibility to something bigger than you was important. And despite, the racial overtones, the North versus the South overtones, a couple hundred years ago when The forefathers did not want to go back to England, did not want to lose to England. They put things in place to ensure that, that this country would survive, at least from a political standpoint, a judicial standpoint. I mean, I think what has happened is over the years, as money has been, the process is put in place to prevent money from corrupting our systems has been broken down. You're starting to see why the forefathers did what they did.
Right.
Court justice is, without being, too, hyperbole, they're corrupt. They can be bought and sold. Justice Thomas has been bought and sold. Alito is bought and sold. The Barrett is bought and sold from the religious right. They're bought and sold.
Right.
Billionaires in this country provide money to them whatever way they can to get decisions to be decided the way they want to have it decided. So until we get money, Citizens United was the worst decision in the history of this country. Until we get money out of politics, I don't see any change in our Supreme Court.
I was supposed to give a background video on this before we got started. I'm gonna get that background video real quick, okay?
Yep,
and then I'm gonna come back on that point you just said about the money part, and we'll get into that as soon as we get back, okay?
There are a lot of famous courtrooms. There's the People's Court, Judge Judy's Court, even that military court in A Few Good Men.
You can't handle the truth.
But what about the Supreme Court? What exactly is it, and what do those justices do? If you remember back to high school civics class, the U.S. government has three branches. The legislative branch writes the laws. The executive branch enforces the laws, and the judicial branch interprets the laws to decide if they are constitutional. Just like there are cities, counties, and states, the judicial branch includes local, state, and regional courts. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the judicial branch, which makes it the most important court in the entire country. Sometimes lower courts will disagree on how a case should be decided. A court in one region may say that a law is constitutional, but a court in another region may believe the same law should be limited or overturned. The Supreme Court sorts out the different decisions and has final say on whether laws are constitutional. The court has 9 justices, or judges, who are appointed by the president and approved by the Senate. The justices serve for life. A decision happens when 5 justices, a majority, agree on an outcome. Since the Supreme Court is flooded with over 10,000 requests a year to review cases that have been decided by lower courts, they can only choose the most important cases to hear. Around 80 cases are presented to the court each term, and each term wraps up in early summer. Typically, the most controversial and most widely publicized cases are saved for last. So be sure to stay tuned during the summer as the Supreme Court comes down with more landmark decisions that may impact your life.
Right. All right. So, as you can see there, how the court is broke down is very important to, it's very important to how laws are made, laws are passed. And if I go back to the point you were making earlier before we start looking at this video, money is a big deal. Now, with the advent of money being put into the Supreme Court with Clarence Thomas, it was before there was money involved, but it was real low key and nobody really knew about it. And it wasn't that much money involved. There was maybe 1 or 2 justices that were being accused of taking money and stuff. But now most all of them have taken money. So the justice is the last leg of the 3 legs of our government that money has infiltrated and made a big difference. You already got Congress and you got the executive branch. We're spending billions of dollars to get senators, congressmen, and the president elected. Now we're spending billions of dollars to get the justices to give view on something or make law on something that we think is important to us and everything. And for me, that's the last straw for me, because I always said the law is the law. So when it get to the Supreme Court, they got to go by the law, and that this will be checked. And now I'm finding that when a case comes up, I can pretty much tell you who's gonna vote for the case. I can tell you pretty much if the case is gonna be passed or not. You know, and with the exception of one hearing that they had and one policy, uh, it's all fell down the lines of political lines, Republican and Democrats. And that one case that they had was the Affordable Care Act, and it took John Roberts, the Chief Supreme Court Justice, to side with the more liberal judges to pass that law. And he really got on the bad side of conservative Republicans, and it took him a long time to get back on the good side. But he's been pulled back to the right with the three new justices that Donald Trump put on the court and everything, which is just not heard of. And one of those justices is up there by all means illegal, because McConnell at the time had a lead on the Senate, and he kept one of Barack Obama's judges not from getting on the getting on the Supreme Court by not even holding a vote for the gentleman. So uh, there you have it. The money, once again, follow the money and everything. So
Yeah,
we're
no,
gonna go, unless you want to follow up. You want to follow up on that?
no, you're good. You said everything I was gonna say. Go ahead. We can go ahead.
Okay. So overconfidence and over bias right now. That is a big, and I know you wanted to talk about that, so you can go ahead on that one too.
Yeah, it's overconfidence because there's nothing that anyone can do to them. They don't answer to anybody. Once you become a Supreme Court justice, you don't answer to anybody. If you don't have a chief justice that has any authority or any discipline or any code or honor, you can do what you want. I mean, people say, "Oh, well, Chief Roberts is, he's a Chief Justice Roberts is, he's more center than he is right." Bull crap. I
He's a
mean,
lame
he has
duck.
no control. He has no control over his justices. I mean, Judge Thomas is out here receiving, $1 million gifts. People buying his childhood home, giving his grandmother, money, sending him on trips. Thomas's wife is a right wing nut zealot. He doesn't do anything. Amy Barrett is tied down to the religious right. He has no control over that court.
And
And
Alito.
right, and there's nothing that anyone can do. I mean, you got the cases that come to him about gerrymandering districts. That's the only way that you can remove them, is to have people in Congress that are willing to remove a Supreme Court justice. But if you gerrymander the districts where you're only going to bring in Marge Taylor Greene types or Lauren Bobbitt idiots, you're never going to have anybody to hold them accountable. And that's exactly what you have. So there's overconfidence. They sit on the Supreme Court for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, and Alito has seemingly, to me, has taken the role of the Chief Justice to himself, because the last couple of big cases, he's written the assent on it, meaning that his name is stamped all over the findings and everything. And with him being the second justice, where his wife is showing favoritism to the J6 group of people by flying a flag upside down for all the military people that follow politics, that should be a bad sign for you. But somehow we just overlook it. Okay, but you have a football player who's don't even have a hand in making policy or anything, take a knee, and the world go crazy. The world go absolutely crazy. And then these justices will say, that's my wife. The most trusted confidant you have in your life is your wife. And to say that their thoughts don't have any bearing on my thoughts is real stupid. And I bet to get cursed out at night. I bet to get cursed out at night when they go to bed, before they go to bed. What you mean? What I say don't count? You know,
they don't care, and that just shows you the type of cowards that we have on the Supreme Court and in leadership positions in this country that are willing to turn to your wife and blame your wife for flying the flag. Let me tell you something. There ain't a single flag that's going to sit outside my house that I don't put up myself. My wife is not going to put up a flag on my house that I don't know about. That's a coward. Exactly. He did it.
It only up there for a short time. It shouldn't have been up there at all. He should be paying for this, and he's not. There's no repercussion. People will continue to do the bad things they do until they pay for it. And until they pay for it, it's going to continue to be the same way. And that goes right into legitimacy. All these things go hand in hand together. The court cannot be considered legitimate anymore. Not in my opinion. It cannot, because all the cases go right down the party lines. Now, if the law is the law and people interpret the law differently, but you know the court is going to interpret the law the same way every time, regardless of right and wrong, simply because of their affiliation to a party, then it might as well be a third part of the legislator. They say they don't make law, but they really do sometimes. Look at what they did when they took away most of the voting right law. They don't make law, but they can destroy law. They can destroy it. When they took away most of the voting right law, look at what happened down south. Look at what is happening down south. The South, all the southern states are trying to push the black voters and people of color out of being able to vote, making them jump through hoops to vote. Look at the case Roe versus Wade. Look at what happened when they took that down. Look at the craziness that's going around the world. So they may not make law, but they can destroy law and make it real bad on the American people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to say to that. I mean, I think you covered everything. And the reality is that they're not legitimate. I mean, I've said that for probably the last 10 years. The Supreme Court of the United States is a farce. You know, they're political. Their decisions are all political. They are essentially the right-wing power broker of this country. And that's what right-wing people and Republicans do when they can't win. They don't have any policies. They don't have a way to get people to want to vote for them based upon what their vision is of the country. So the Supreme Court forces changes on people to make it easier for them to do what they want to do. I mean, the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act. Why are you gutting the Voting Rights Act? What was being affected in the South for the Voting Rights Act that you needed to change it? People were able to vote. They didn't change anyone's ability to vote. They just ensured that people had a fair opportunity to vote. But they changed.
What's so bad about Suleiman? They send people like us, retired, active duty military people like we used to be. They send us to other countries to fight so other people can vote.
Yep.
Not to rein back. You know, we're reining back. The
Voting Rights Act. You know, Roe v. Wade. You know, the gerrymandering districts. You know, taking away people's right to vote. And that's what the Republicans do. They cannot win on policy. They cannot win on what they want to do for the country. So they rig the system to make it easier for them. And I've said this before as well. You know, black folks that are out here that are our age or younger, you want to know what your parents and your grandparents went through, you are experiencing part of what they went through. This is what it was like in the 40s and 30s and 40s, outside of the blatant racism, the physical blatant racism. But this was what it was like. Making it difficult for you to vote, making it, our grandparents and great grandparents who, had limited education, with the voting taxes and stuff like that, changing laws to prevent you from exercising your rights as a citizen. So to go back to what I said, the Supreme Court of the United States is a farce. It is no longer legitimate in my mind. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but anything that comes from the Supreme Court, in my opinion, is should have an asterisk on
it. I'm gonna show you a video by Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader in the Senate, and I'll let you see what he thinks about the Supreme Court.
Sweet, cool.
Appropriate. Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas are totally out of control. Continue to detonate the credibility.
Sorry about that. We're having a little
of the United States
problem, but we're gonna try to get through it.
In the case of Samuel Alito, he definitively needs to recuse himself from any matter pending before the United States Supreme Court that has to do with the January 6th violent insurrection. He should have no part of it. Part of the problem that we confront is that the Supreme Court has chosen to conduct itself as if the judiciary is above the law. In America, no one is above the law. That includes the Supreme Court, that includes Samuel Alito, and that includes Clarence Thomas. If the Supreme Court does not get its act under control, we can be confident that Democrats in the House of Representatives, partnering with Democrats in the United States Senate, will act the first opportunity we have to engage in thorough oversight and the consideration of imposing.
I think we got enough in there. It's exactly what we said, and it's exactly what they're gonna have to do. They're gonna have to impose it. They're gonna have to make the Supreme Court do what they're supposed to do. So
I mean, really quick. I mean, I love Hakeem Jeffries. I think he's going to be a great speaker, leader of the House when he gets the opportunity. And again, when I always say people need to read American history, and nothing in United States history, from a judicial system or a political system, executive system, has been accomplished without force. The United States runs around and we always talk about, we talk and we work things out. Bull crap. Nothing in this country has been accomplished and changed without force. And I'm not talking about physical force. I'm talking about voting force. I'm talking about pressure. I'm talking about removing people from positions of power and bringing in people who are willing to make change. That's how it happens. And that's how it's going to happen this time. I agree with Jeffries. The way to do it is Democrats got to get out and vote. Win the House, win the Senate, win the White House, and then you can make changes. And that's the only way it's going to happen.
You're right. You're totally right about that. And that's why we always tell people to stay woke.
Yep.
And stay woke is not a bad thing. You have to be awake to be aware.
Yep.
And if you think that's a bad thing to be aware in politics, then you got to be crazy, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to be asleep so that they can do whatever they want to the general public and stuff.